So the Twittercopolis is upon us. And if you're thinking about moving to Mastodon, what are the security and privacy implications? Oh, and are Apple's iPhone security updates actually rubbish? No, seriously, are they rubbish? And that old chestnut that you've been watching porn scam is back. Welcome to Straight Talking Cyber.
Well, maybe a good place to start is to look at Mastodon. I mean, there's been a lot going on with Twitter over the last few weeks, hasn't there, with Elon Musk just absolutely going crazy. It's led a lot of people to move over to Mastodon and kind of keep their Twitter accounts just to try it out. I mean, I've done that. I don't know what everyone else thinks of Mastodon. It's not as kind of straightforward as Twitter, is it?
It's not Twitter, is the answer. It's a different thing altogether to Twitter. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but it is different. And yeah, there seems to be something of a split in the InfoSec community in particular. Many have gone over to Mastodon, some have gone to Counter Social, some are now moving into Discord. There's all sorts of things going on. There's new forums being opened up. But Mastodon has got something of a critical mass compared to what it used to. I mean, in the last week, there's been over 1 million people have joined Mastodon, which is huge. And I mean, I've got an account at Mastodon now, and I'm probably using that as much as I do Twitter, not more yet. I'm hanging around on Twitter because who wouldn't hang around and watch that ship sink?
Look, I mean, elephant in the room territory, right? You know, the Twitter served a purpose. It's kind of it's long in the tooth now, right? You know, it has been replaced, and ultimately the Twitter challenge is it's not sticky enough. There's not enough user engagement. You know, it can't monetize. The fact is, you know, what we've seen in parallel, which I think is really interesting, is in recent months we've seen lots of stories around TikTok being where the under 30s are going for news and Twitter struggling, and it's not disconnected, right? I think if Mastodon was going to be viral, it would have happened. It wouldn't need Twitter's demise. It's not going to be a giant platform. It will be niche. A few million, but not hundreds of millions. And I think Twitter's problem is actually there's no natural monetization from an ad perspective the way that you do see. You did see with Instagram, and now you see with TikTok. And until somebody kind of crosses that Rubicon and comes up with something that's both viral and serves the purpose Twitter served, then it's gonna remain a shambles.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, people keep asking what's the next Twitter. Mastodon gets brought up in that conversation, but it's the wrong conversation and the wrong answer. We don't know what the next Twitter is. I don't think the next Twitter actually exists yet. It's going to be one of those where something will come up and there'll be a slow move of people, and eventually all of a sudden there'll be something of a critical mass. We'll say, oh, everybody's here, we're doing that. I mean, you've only got to look in the past. History repeats itself. How far back do you want to go? MySpace?
There's actually a gap in the market, really, isn't there, for a social channel that's kind of different from everything that's around at the moment. I mean, Facebook died years ago. Twitter was already dead, really. It was only kind of useful within certain communities. But now we've kind of got all this verification issue. We've got fake accounts. We've got Twitter and other social media being used for nefarious means to influence and to kind of spread fake news and whatever else. I mean, the whole environment's pretty toxic, isn't it? And it's kind of hard to get out of that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the other thing which is interesting is, I mean, look, ultimately we're driven by algorithms. And the fact is, the harsh reality for Twitter is their algorithm doesn't work. And we know it doesn't work because engagement's down, it's not very sticky, it can't find a way. If it had the right algorithm, then it wouldn't have a problem selling advertising, and you know, micro-influencers would be there and all the rest of it. And that's how you make money in social, right? What you don't make money in is just this, I don't know, it is a shambles. There's no way else looking at it. You go on Twitter now, and it's just a bizarre mix of stuff, right? And it's an amusing place to spend 10 minutes, but it's not the go-to it was even a few years ago. And other things have overtaken it, and it's going through the same demise that Facebook's been through, which is it's just not relevant. And the other reality is Musk's takeover of Twitter is almost it's inevitably going to accelerate the demise, because it's not even an independent platform anymore. It's now some billionaire's plaything. So now we're all going onto a billionaire's plaything to try and get our news and views. Why would we do that? How can we possibly trust that platform where, I mean, the whole verification thing for me was just like the most, it was almost like it was a slow motion car crash that was so obvious to watch it happening. And like, how could you not see exactly what was going to go on last week with, you know, the Eli Lilly affair and everything else? But we're just going to see event, and it's just going to become a joke. And that is the challenge it has now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll cover this in more detail in my article, but before we leave the whole Twitter Mastodon thing, I'll just say that if you're going to move to Mastodon, there's a few important things you should note, and that is, as always, choose a strong and unique password for the Mastodon instance, which is essentially just a server. Once you've done that, enable multi-factor authentication on that server. And last, although talking of verification, although there's no blue tick verification system on Mastodon, you can verify yourself by getting a green tick in your profile, which is you linking your website to your account and your account to your website, and then you get a green tick so people can see that it's actually you in that way.
Yeah, that works better than the Twitter one in a way, doesn't it? Because I mean, I can verify for life.
Better than the $8 approach.
Yeah, I want that as well. Definitely. So
what's been happening with Apple?
Apple, indeed. Well, we've seen another Apple update that came up recently, and it's brought up a bit of discussion about the timeliness of Apple updates. So we're seeing lots of fixes for zero-day vulnerabilities, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what we're not seeing is automatic updates happening in a timely fashion. We've had people kind of doing experiments and just waiting with their phones to see how long it takes for the updates to happen automatically. And it can be weeks. And all that time you're exposed. And because Apple is so closed about kind of who the vulnerability will affect, you don't know who's at risk. You've got to be really, really proactive as an individual, as a business, whatever you are, at checking for updates. It's infuriating, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I find it quite funny, if I'm honest, because all of us here at Straight Talking Cyber, we've had it in the neck, getting it in the neck for months, if not years, with our update now message. Oh, you don't need to update now. This is just clickbait. It's hyperbole. Because your phone will update itself. You just leave it, but it's not. No. Not for everybody. For some people, for most people, even it will update itself, but not for everybody.
I've said before, right? I've been an iPhone user for a decade, whatever it's been, and I don't think in the history of my use of an iPhone, my automatic update has ever worked. It's been set the whole time, and constantly I can wait a few days and I'll go in and and then you'll install the update. So however it's supposed to work, it clearly doesn't work. And I don't understand why they can't push this out in absolute real time as soon as it's available. And that update then sits there and will, as soon as it's plugged in, it will start.
And it's such a priority at the moment as well with these kind of really high risk vulnerabilities. Yes, they do affect a small subset of people in most cases, but with these things out there, we don't really know. Plus, at the end of the day, attackers can get hold of the details and use attacks in different ways than they were originally intended. So either way, something needs to change, and it needs to change soon.
Yeah, indeed. And talking about things that need to change and haven't actually changed, sextortion, which is a horrible word, I hate it, but it's a nasty thing, and it seems to be coming back. At least if my junk mail folder and the pleas for help that I'm getting on by DMs are any measure to go by. Again, I'll dissect the workings fully in my article later this week. But essentially what we've got is this old "you've been watching porn" scam coming back, whereby somebody sends you an email, direct message, whatever, and says that they've hacked your system, they've got your passwords, they control your webcam, they've done a side-by-side recording of you enjoying watching pornography. And unless you pay them, it generally works out to between $1,000 and $2,000 worth of Bitcoin. They'll pass this video on to all your contacts. the simple thing here is no, that hacker, no, that scammer hasn't got your password, hasn't got control of your system, they haven't got control of your webcam, they haven't been recording you, even if you have been watching porn. Because if they did, they'd be doing a lot more than trying to squeeze $1,000 out of you. They'd be going after your financials. They'll have access to all your logins. They'd maximize the return. So no, you don't need to worry about this.